The ruin. I've been going to therapy recently. It started last month. It's really been tough on me, this whole thing. But it is all due to this story. I really do feel like finally getting it out there will make me feel better. It was 3 months ago. Now it's March, but this happened at January. So I'm not sure if that's actually 3 months or 2. But anyway, that morning we'd woken up and I'd taken our daughter to school and my wife to work. I went back home and look, I saw nothing strange when I got back home. But sometimes I wonder if I should have. I don't know if this is just my brain filling in things, but I think I might have heard the rolling sounds from the other room when I was on the couch watching TV. No, I don't know, man. So what happened next is, my wife called from work, and I had to go pick her up. I got my daughter too, then we went home. I drove into the driveway and parked the car and got out, and that was when it started. So I got out of the car first, then I went inside. When I got inside, I knew something was off. And that was because I could see the grass all over the floor, the grass from the lawn. The thing is, I'm the one who usually has to clean the house, so I always tell the girls to walk on the walkway, and never on the lawn. But that didn't matter, since I knew for a fact I was the only person who was supposed to be here, keyword being supposed. I slowly walked to the living room, and when I peeked, I saw nothing. Then I heard the sound of spoons, then footsteps, then finally, a wooden plank falling or something. It was coming from the kitchen. By then I was sure there was someone inside the house. I walked to the kitchen, and I would have run out, except I couldn't run out without passing the kitchen door. So I had no choice but to peek into the kitchen. And there was no one. I went to check the spoons, but they were all there. I couldn't see anything that was out of the ordinary, and I was about to give up. But then I heard a screech. I whirled around, in time to see it, my daughter rushing into the room. I was breathing hard, trying to slow down my breathing, while my little baby girl was laughing. She asked me what was wrong, and I picked her up and walked out, passing the cabinet. We got outside and I saw my wife was standing at the other side of the house, looking at the wall with a white face. And I remember feeling this digging feeling sinking into my stomach from my chest. I knew something was wrong, but seeing it on my wife's face, I couldn't help feeling I was completely effed. I walked up to her and asked what was wrong. She didn't respond. Instead, I saw it myself when I looked at it. The window to the living room was broken, and there were shoe prints on the wall under the window. Without hesitation, I told them all to go back to the car, and for a moment, I considered going in there. But then I realized I could just call the cops, and so I did. My girl was peeking out the window and asking me what was happening, and I could only tell her to sit down and relax. The cops arrived 5 minutes later, and since I'd explained everything to them, they only asked if they were in the house, and I said yes. Then they went inside, pulling out their guns. Seeing that made me even more nervous. I listened for gunshots, but for a minute nothing happened. And then something did. A sharp piercing scream could be heard, coming from the house. And the cops came out, and one of them was bleeding from the shoulder, so they had to take him to the hospital. He has recovered now. With them, the cops brought out a man who was in handcuffs. It was a very skinny guy, with pale blonde hair and patches on his head. That face haunts me every night. Apparently, the guy was hiding in the cabinet, the very one I'd walked past when my daughter was on my shoulder, completely oblivious to the folly I was committing, and he had been holding out a knife. This is just... it's so heavy for me to think about, and it's hard taking it through. So, I'm still trying to digest everything. The comforter. I was chased by someone in my family's maize fields. Alright, so this story starts way back. I have always been loved by adults and children, ever since I could remember. And so I was asked by my little cousin to visit her since she hadn't seen me in a while. I love my cousin, but I hesitated, let's say. You see, they live in a literal farm. When my brother heard my cousin asked for me, he even joked that I was scared of the maize. I'm not. Well, at least I wasn't at the time. I just didn't want to work with the chicken poo, horse poo, cow poo. Basically, I just didn't want any poo business. But then my cousin called me again, and the little smartass said I promised I'd go to her birthday, twisting my conscience, like the mad genius she is. The place is super far, so I had to leave early. When I got there, the family was out at town. Over the next couple of days, I'd come to learn this was a norm for them, leaving the whole darned farm to me. It was an extremely creepy experience for me, but I managed to push through it. It was worth it to get to play with my little cousin though. The girl's got the wildest imagination, let me tell ya. Scarcely will you see her not smiling, which is why I was more than upset when she came home from town one afternoon, crying on her mother. Apparently she only started as they were driving through the maize field, and she later told me that she saw something, a big lizard in the maize. But with a bit of cunning from my side, I heard her laughing and playing again in no time, and what she'd said was completely forgotten, until later that night. I was sleeping on the couch in the lounge, because it is the comfiest place on earth, when I heard the loud barking. The farm dog, Luke, was barking outside, which would be normal, except he started making yelping sounds like he was scared. So I hurried outside to see what was the matter. When Luke saw me, he immediately bolted to the maize fields. I had to chase him on my feet, yelling like a loud person. I was much slower because of my lack of shoes and the grass stabbing at my soft underfeet, so Luke got in first in the field. I called once more, then I heard Luke letting out a yelp, like he was being hit. I hurried, but Luke came out before I could get in the maize, and he was limping. A few days later, it was my little cousin's long-awaited birthday. Everyone was playing games and laughing when my aunt noticed Luke's leash was missing. I told her it was in the maize field and said I could go get it for her. She said it was fine, that she'd send my uncle, but he seemed to be having such a great time, so I said I'd go get it myself. I really shouldn't have though. I made it to the maize field and entered. As I was walking through it, I heard my brother make the sound of muttering behind me. I told him it wasn't funny anymore, and he got quiet. But unlike how he normally did, he didn't respond now. Deciding I should hurry out of here, I walked faster. Though there was no speaking this time, I could hear something behind me. I saw the leash a distance away, but decided to not get it anymore. Instead, I slowly turned and started walking out of there. And then I glanced back. Buck teeth, 2 eyes, and cracking, tanned skin. That was what I saw, and I screamed, running away. The guy chased me and even caught my shoulder with his long fingers. I jerked myself off him and fell to the floor outside of the maze. Embarrassingly, my tears made everyone in the party stop celebrating. They reassured me that there was no one there, and my uncle was sent to get the leash later instead. Later, when I got home, I overheard my father and mother talking about how my uncle and aunt found someone in the maze who had been stealing the maize and living there for months now. The busher. My leg was crippled by a bush when I was looking for my soccer ball. I am crippled on my right leg. From the knee down, it doesn't work. How did this happen? Glad you asked. I was out with my friends playing soccer at the park. We were hot, sweaty, and tired by then, wishing for nothing else but our home. That's when one of them kicked the ball and it sailed and fell into the bushes that were under the trees. As one of the boys went to get it, I decided I was spent and started home. I told them they could return the ball tomorrow, since it was mine. The following day I woke up full of energy and went to the park again. None of them were there, and since they didn't return the ball, I knew it was still in the bush somewhere. It wouldn't be the first time we just left the ball there, and so I went to look. I got to the bush and started ruffling it, pushing it around to see inside properly. It ruffled as you'd expect, but then I stopped moving to look, and guess what? The bush was still ruffling. I actually took a couple of steps back to look at it and watch, and yes, it was still moving. There was something inside. I decided let me be quick about getting the ball, so I went back into ruffling the bush and pushing it aside to see the floor. Instead, I saw something black, and then I heard growling. I don't know any cat, dog, or whatever that could growl so deeply. It made my stomach twist and I felt my bones rattle. I decided I should leave it be and go look elsewhere. I moved around the tree and started searching again. Soon, I got lost in the process and I didn't notice where I was searching. Then I opened the bush and I saw something white in there. I couldn't tell its dimensions, but I thought it had to be my ball. So I lifted my foot and I put it inside to give it a testing kick. Then there was a loud roar and a dagger stabbed through my effing quad, straight through the other side, allowing many others to grab in too. Then the thing started chewing, biting through my tendons and my heel. I fell back and tried to pull myself free, but it dragged me into the bush with my ankle. Finally, I yanked myself free, pulling off a massive part of the muscle on my leg in the process. Only as I was stumbling away did I start screaming. I couldn't stand on the leg anymore. I looked to the bush again and saw that the thing was still there, but I couldn't make out what it truly was. I cried and I limped home. I had to be taken to the ER, and when they asked me what attacked me, I couldn't answer. I didn't have the slightest clue.